Welcome to the second Fall Fair Live. I've raided the cold cellar and found what I believe is the prettiest jar of pickles to sketch. So we have done green relish, we have done strawberry rhubarb jam, so those both go there, and now we have a jar of pickles. This is also our test tile because I'm not totally sure how I'm doing the glazing on top. Got a couple ideas, so I want a test tile, and we are going to go in and stamp out a new jar, and then we'll go from there. So pull this down just so I've got, they're not all exactly even. I'm just trying to get them as even as possible, and I'm gonna do the same thing that I did last time and clean up this inner rim. Honestly, the fact that we can't open these jars until October because they have to sit for a couple months is so sad, because it is currently the middle of August. Like, it is such a long time, and we've only got, I think we've got 2 jars from last year left in the cold cellar, which doesn't feel like nearly enough when Mom is making bagels from scratch. So I'm gonna do my best to like just wipe off ink from what I want to wipe off ink from. There. Right. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So here's my idea. I'm going to sketch these pickles out, and then we're gonna paint them. But I had to get an actual jar from upstairs, so like I had something to base this off of, because otherwise this was just gonna be frustratingly hard. Let's put that back there. Let's push that to the side. Again, this top part's gonna have a lid painted onto it, so it doesn't matter. But we have sort of one there. You can really tell that these jars were packed by like sciencey kids. They fit together or mathy kids, they fit together very precisely. Like, they spiral into each other. I'm fairly sure Grandma had a much more effective way of packing pickle jars, but seeing as she was not home and we were doing this ourselves, the kids packed pickle jars. There's also like a huge empty space just of pickle brine at the bottom. That's gonna be a time to paint. I actually might paint one in. Nobody has to know that it doesn't actually exist in our real life jars. Because yes, our pickles in the jar do actually curve like this currently, because that is how much of, you know, nerdy geeks the kids in this household are. She was like, this one comes up, this one goes back, this one's edge, like it curves through the jar. And there's something of garlic. There's another thing of garlic over here. And there's mustard seeds everywhere. Okay. There's also like a little bit of dill up here. Some of the dill decided to float. So. Okay. Let's get rid of most of our lines, or like the most prominent parts of our lines, and grab some paint. I will say, don't necessarily intend for this to come out perfectly the first time. I suspect I might have to paint this twice. My goal though is to put down a base layer and then to glaze on top of it. So let's grab a whole variety of some very tiny brushes. Like that, like this, and like this. Right. Yes, I'm very much looking forward to once I'm done this stuff and once bagels are made. We don't have any lox, but a bagel with cream cheese and capers and red onions sounds very good. Can't actually remember how green this color is. It might be too green. But we'll throw it in for our top one. I don't want that brush. I want something with a little bit more flexibility. That was rude. We're also sort of building this like a pickle at a time, because I can't do too much at once. So I figure if I build this a pickle at a time, and feel free to ask any questions in the chat. So I can do this one down here because it's also not touching anything else. So these are all palettes from my latest YouTube memberships class. So I'm already using up paint that I had in palettes, which I love when I get to do this. Oh, this is too bright of a green. It's fine, it'll just be our base. We'll just build it up. I do love dill pickles. Honestly, they're the only proper type of pickle. Let's go. this last one over here. So I want to use this. I don't know what color this is. Whatever color it is, it's our next pickle. Oh, that's such a good color. It's too colorful for a cucumber. Let's dab in some of this. All right. We have 3 left. 2 in the center, 1 on the side. I have to say, there is something really lovely about fall fairy trees. I think it's the fact that they're so different from what I normally paint or do. Like they're very set in their rules for what you can do. But I love getting to be a little bit creative, and like I could have just done tiny tree gift tags. I had those ready to go. I could have just submitted something that I already had made, but it was so much more fun to redo a project that I did many years ago for the fair. I think this was my 2022 project. But at the time it was things found in, or things that find their homes in Grandma's mason jars. So I did a wedding centerpiece, I did a bug habitat, I did all those fun things. And now it's, you know, when you're older and you actually start to use Grandma's canning jars properly, and they find use as canning jars again. And I sort of love that. I love that we've been full circle with this project, where it's been both very sort of abstracty, and now we're back to, you know, the canning jars being canning jars again. It's 2. I think it's gonna be really easy for this to just turn into one like blob. And so I'm gonna have to go through and like define them all again once I've done a pass of them all. Especially because like I'm not taking a whole lot of time to do them. I'm just, that's too bright. That's gonna have to be toned down. You're too bright. some more of that yellowy color. All right, let's see how that tries to. So far, the one I'm actually disliking the most is that top one. I might just take it really, really green. And then grab something very okay. Let's see how those dry down. I think though that's the vibe I'm going for. They are definitely more green, but I can always glaze on top with something slightly yellow and bring everything down. I'll probably glaze with a yellow ochre because that's sort of the tone of what we're painting. And so I'll just add some cohesion with some yellow ochre. But I'm gonna let these dry. We've got one more. I might add, you know, some space filler ones like in the background in like darker colors with some less detail. I feel like we're in need of some space filler, and then we'll add the garlic and the dill and the mustard seeds and everything in. But I think for the mustard seeds at least, like I'm going to want to use a dotting tool for that. I don't know where my dotting tool is. I'm also going to want the page to be totally dry. So I think today we're going to do pickles, and then we'll do details the next time. So the page is totally dry because it is very humid, and I'm afraid the things will not dry, and if things don't dry, then everything's just going to run. Those two are taking a very long time to dry. All right, so the other thing we're doing today is the gold version of the congratulations card as the happy anniversary card. I've used it as a wedding card in the past. When I submitted it 2 years ago, I submitted it as a wedding card. But this time around, I'm doing the gold version, which I have given as a gift before. And I do really like, and I've got the butterflies already cut out for. I had them in my bag of random little bits. And so I just had to identify the gold. And so we're going to do the green stamping and probably the lettering. And we'll go from there. It's not an easy card to do because this is all free-handed with a very tiny paintbrush. And that takes a whole lot of time. But I do think it looks really good, and so I'm going to stamp out the base and do all that stuff as well today, and do this wreath today as well. I might not letter today. We'll see if the page dries or not. So for now, this is going on top of this jar. These are moving over because those last two pickles are taking forever to dry, and it will be a hot second before I can finish painting them. These little brushes are going away. And so there's our card base. The nice thing about this category is it can be any technique, but it has to be a handcrafted envelope, which means I only have to create the envelope by hand. I don't have to create the card base by hand. So I've got my card base. I am going to believe I need this to be like 4 by 6. 4, yeah, 4 by 6. So right now this is 7 by 5 approximately. So what we're going to do is divide it so that it's got an edge. I am going to leave it on the block because I think that makes it easier. But we are going to go and mark out 6 inches. And then I'll just cut it down with a base or with a cutting blade later. 6. I guess I could have just pulled an inch from the side. Lovely. You're 1.25 inches. Oh, you're the same. So actually this block is just big. So it's probably a good thing that I didn't do what I initially wanted to do, because this block is slightly bigger than it says it is. I don't repeat designs very often. The only other time I've repeated a fall fair design, I did do it in a different way. So I feel like submitting a different version of the card in a different category is fine, especially because it has been 2 years and I haven't made this card in over a year. Alright, so that means my middle is 3, 2. Alright, next step is wetting this so that we can be annoying with it in a moment. I would say the biggest challenge with this card was actually figuring out what gold I used to do these butterflies like 2.5 years ago. I fussy cut everything, and so these butterflies have been in my stash for a very long time, and I, for the life of me, could not figure out what color I used. And it took me nearly 30 minutes with the swatch book of like going back and forth with colors to the window to figure out which was the right gold. But I figured it out now, and now I have the correct gold for lettering as well, which is great. So this is gonna sit and rehydrate. While that happens, let's create a custom background for this card, because nothing in this card is simple, including the fact that it has a hand-stamped background, because why not? So let's grab a clean page of paper and our card. So here's our card. What I like about this card is that because you only see the border, I think I only stamped in about 1/2 inch, which is super nice. There are some cards that you have to like stamp the entire thing. this is not one of those cards. Also, I'm just putting this on the top edge of the... You're not gonna stick, are you? Oh, that's so annoying. Is that enough for you to decide to stick? Hopefully. So I just rinsed it with water. And that can happen with rubber clear stamps, is that all of a sudden like they decide they're not going to stick anymore, which is sort of what I hate about them. That and the fact that they don't always give a clean stamp. So I think this background's actually just gonna be our test background for like figuring out if I like everything, because that's not a particularly clean stamp. It does look very vintagey though. All right, we're gonna finish stamping it out. We're gonna need a different card background, but at least very few stamped cleanly. That's annoying. Okay, hopefully this goes better. Our card, I think I did probably 3 passes. Here is our jar. Here is our water. The funny thing is, I don't even know if this is the original version of the card anymore, because I did sell a bunch of them in 2023. Like, I have no idea if this is still the original card or not. All right. That is too much paint. right, take two. I did figure that if any card was gonna result in multiple takes, it was gonna be this one. It's so frustratingly hard to get the page centered that sometimes it just, like, because you've got to get both the design centered and the right amount of paint on the rim. And so what I actually might do is just 3, 2. All right, take 2. We're actually gonna make our puddle for the rim to dip into. And we might it's not big enough. We might take it and dip it onto the dud page first, just to like protect my sanity. Or we might not, because, you know. Cool. That's good enough for me. I went and screwed it up. All right, take 3. Next time we get one, we're just leaving it. This is a reminder of why I stopped making this card to sell. Because there was no way to perfectly mass produce the circles. And so it was basically impossible to even break even on paper costs selling this card. Such a hard card to do. last time I made one of these cards was over a year ago. Because they're just impossible to break even on. Part of me wants to just leave it there. Which is a little bit less than the original design. But I worry that there. There we go. All right, now we get to let that dry. It's amazing how many tries it still takes me to do that. And that's why I stopped doing them. Because they're just so hard to get centered and to look perfect. And if they don't look perfect, they look really awkward. And I used my pipette and I can't find clean water pipettes. Them. Whatever. Oh, they're all the way over there. Yeah, that's helpful. Well, it makes me get up, and that lets me get another card blank. So my thought is to get a card blank that's white, which isn't what I want. Stamps clearly work better on white. So, new card blank acquired. And I also think that once it's stamped, it's harder to tell that it's white and not slightly cream. So let's see if this will get me a clean image. That's a slightly cleaner image. I'm still not describe it as clean. Is it my stamp pad that's the problem? I don't know. Could be my stamp pad. It could just be that this stamp pad needs to be re-inked. But I don't know that Ranger still makes a re-inker for it. I'm gonna have to investigate that. Because I did buy it on clearance, which leads me to believe it's probably a discontinued color. I don't want to leave that corner as is. I do though feel like I need something in here. Just like in case somebody looks underneath the background. That is sort of my favorite part about making my own pattern paper for cards, is that I have access to any of my stamps in my collection to do it. I almost never use actual pattern paper for backgrounds of cards. I always make my own. It's more fun. It also means that I get to customize the color to whatever I'm making. Hello, welcome. Oh, those pickles are finally dry. All right, so the panel's drying. This is stamped. The pickles are dry. Let's bring our green palette back in. And all of these teeny weeny paintbrushes. Which of these brushes was I actually using? I thought I was using the blue one, but maybe I wasn't using this blue one. I had to be. I don't have another blue one. There's my watercolor cloth. All right. So we've got one more in the front pickle, and then our rest are background pickles. Let's go with this. I feel like you're an okay color. Oh yeah, you're a good base color. Yeah, just basic. Just sort of what I need. Just need a good base. I feel like I need a darker green. Maybe I just need a darker yellowy green. actually think that background one needs to go way darker, but we'll save that for once. It's dry. I can start throwing some other colors at it. There's also like huge pockets of just like black in this jar where it's just like dark space. I'm sort of in love with this. It's not where I want it to be yet, but I can like see where it's going. That's sort of where I'm at with all three of them so far. It's like they're not where I want them to be, but I can see the vision for where they're going. And I'm just so excited to see how they turn out. I like going back and redoing this idea. Honestly, I don't think I could have pulled off bees better than I pulled off bees in 2023. But this idea from 2022, like, I loved it the moment I came up with the idea. And so it's interesting to go back to it 2022, yeah, 3 years later. All right, we're gonna let this dry. Can I dry over here? I believe we are dry over here. All right, so my plan here is that I'm actually going to take this off the block to start with, using this lovely tool from Galen. Not what this tool was meant for, what this brass tool gets used for all the time, because I never have a palette knife in the studio. It's just not something you use in watercolor, but I always have a brass combination tool around, which is great for removing pads from blocks or sheets from blocks. So let's toss that up there. Alright, so I need to unfold. I love this cutting tool. I've got a Fiskars one as well. I do like the Fiskars one. I like the Cricut one with the grid, and it's got a much longer line that pulls out with a whole bunch more measurements. The Fiskars one only has 1/4 of an inch. This one has 1/16 of an inch and centimeters and millimeters. I love it. They're hard to find. I think Cricut's discontinued them, but they are totally worth it if you can get your hands on one. First of all, is this centered? No, it's not. It's what? It's 1/4 of an inch off center. Yeah, 1/4 of an inch off center. So I need this to be 6 1/4. Because I'll take the other 1/4 off the other side. center it up. Shouldn't center this way either. Should have checked it first. It should be at 2. And it's not. 15th. Oh, the math on this is getting hard. So it's about, it's just less than 5. Okay. So I'm just gonna take off 1/2 inch from the bottom. Which will still have this panel being a little bit too big. And that's fine because we still have to square this back up, which brings us so if I take off 3/16 from either side. Cool, 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 cool. Oh, fuck. This panel wasn't 4. Or it was, and now we're at 4. It was, and we're now at 4. Okay, round, what is this, 4 of stamping this out? Here's what we're gonna do this time. We're gonna cut it down first this time. We are gonna cut this down first. Can I use, no, because you can see it. So can I use the back of the page I've already done? Back questions, no, because you can see it. Sometimes you can't. But while I am using cotton watercolor paper, I'm not using expensive cotton watercolor paper, so it is not as opaque as I want it to be. Okay. So, nope. This side goes to 4. Straight. This side goes to 6. Okay. Correct size panel. No, you're an 1/8 of an inch too big. only cutting you down by 1/16. I fear that if I cut you down by any more, you won't fit. And I will be sad. Where are we at? Now it's too small. So what I'm coming to realize is that my first panel was not straight initially. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take off a very tiny amount. Just want this line to be straight and not wiggly wobbly like it is currently. Currently it's wiggly wobbly and it's bringing me no joy. Okay. We're a little bit small, but the first panel apparently wasn't straight. So, whatever. Now, let's do this all again. Where's my plate with my cup? Oh, I'm so done. I'm done. I want to be done. A year from now when I go, I should do fall fair entries. Somebody remind me of this moment when I cut the same panel like a dozen times, seemingly, for no reason. I don't even know where my little cup is. Oh, there it is. The defeat I feel over this card panel. And the reality is, like, this is a card I used to mass produce. This is a card I used to sell. So at one point, I, like, had this down to a system because I was selling these. Ugh. Alright, let's wet this palette. Centered enough. We're gonna call that good enough. I think. I think it's still more paint than I want. It is. I don't know how I got it this swatchy in the original. I also appear to not have any Kleenex. It's like if I had an untextured tissue, that would be one thing, but I appear to only have paper towel, and paper towel leaves a texture. And so I don't want to do that. I don't want to make this panel again. I don't want to make this panel again. I don't know if I keep going and like see if I like it once I've lettered on it, or if I leave it and like make another one. I think I'm gonna letter. We're at least gonna try lettering, with the knowledge that it has been a year plus since I last lettered with a paintbrush, and so this is probably not going to go particularly well, but at this point, what do I have to lose? I've already done this a billion times, and we'll probably have at least one more attempt at it. So I need my tiny little lettering brush for metallics. The other question is like, am I going to actually do a test one? I should. I'm probably not going to. Because why would I do that? I'm also not getting up to fill my water. While my paint water cup, I'm just filling it from my water bottle. Because I don't actually have a shimmer cup. That is how inoften I use shimmer paints these days. This cup does weird things these days. Like you can see the neon yellow from something bleeding out. And then it's purple at the bottom. I have a video of it up on Instagram. It's been my paint cup for a very long time. And nowadays it just does its own thing. Actually, I think the last thing I lettered was placards for Grandpa's funeral. I think the last thing I lettered were like things for flower centerpieces in metallic watercolors. Because, which is like way over a year ago. We couldn't get the right wording from the florists on some of them. Like they just didn't have them in stock. And so I did them by hand at home the night before the funeral. I don't feel like those lines are straight. This is the issue with parallel lines of text. Is oftentimes you'll get one straight but not the other. And that is one of the things I like about this combination tool, is that it's got that second line. So I've got one line that I believe is straight. Not totally sure that it's straight. It's not. You're on my desk. My desk at a 90. Problem solving with the Galen Mother tool. Again, one of the many reasons I love this little thing. Just makes things like this so easy. Because well, it still doesn't look straight on, it does look straight horizontally. And that is good enough for me. So, you two are mattes. You're going away. You're going away because you're the matte water. You are the shimmer water. sort of want to move you up like half an inch. Any way to easily do that. I think the answer is no, there really isn't. But I don't want it to be that close to the top. Actually, haha. Honestly, I use this roller for so many things. Like just like that. We can move this line up. This line up. Aha. All right, there we go. There we go. And then I've also like positioned the part that I don't want over here, where like there's text that way, and so that's fine. I always tilt my page when I hand letter. It's just a thing I do. Oh, what's the middle of this? And I'm always going to start with the longer word. So in this case, anniversary is the longer word in the sentence or in the phrase. So I'm going to start there and work my way. This flourish. We are going to like fine line it in black when it's done, and then that's going to be like a butterfly in my head. I'm also expecting it not to work out and to have to like do another one of these, but who knows, maybe it'll work. I've just smudged it, so take like 6. Okay, honestly, you know what, maybe we're giving up for today. Maybe we're waving the white flag of defeat. I'm really annoyed about this second P.
Because you could look pretty and you're choosing not to.
And now you're blobby. Alright. I give up. I'm gonna go eat a bagel.